We usually know what Medicare Part D plans are going to look like by this time of year. We have at least for the last 18 years, 19 years. But we didn't know last year until October 1st, and it's looking like we won't know this year until October 1st. Why are the insurance companies keeping this information close to heart and not sharing it with at least their top FMOs? Because bad news travels slowly. We know that. And we are looking at bad news for Part D. What we're actually looking at, specifics, I don't know. Nobody knows. We will know it when it's public October 1st, unless one of the companies wants to tell us before then. What we do know is that when they gave their bids to CMS, the Part D drug bids were high. And CMS said, no, thank you. Too high. It's like unprecedented. I don't know if they've ever done that, where they said, nope, no, thank you. Go back to the drawing board, lower your price increase. Now, the insurance companies can say we're not going to be in the Part D drug space, which I think we might see more of that. The amount of carriers we had in the Part D drug space was huge, and now it's whittled down, whittled down, whittled down. And will it continue? Yeah, it will. And we're going to see that this year. Now, you might say this is speculation, but this is a public record that the bids were rejected as too high, and they said go back to the drawing board. We're in the year 2 of the demonstration project. For those of you that didn't know what happened last year, it was an election year. And the bids that the insurance companies gave, like they do every year, were really high. And the government said, oh my God, if we approve this, then every person on Medicare, 60 million people, are going to be mad. And that's a reliable voting block. So we do not want to get 60 million people mad. So we better do something. So what the government did is they came up with a last-minute demonstration project. Now, how I feel about that is going to be political, and I will spare you that. I will say it was curious that they made this a demonstration project, because it doesn't necessarily meet the requirements for CMS demonstration projects. But it got through. And what it did is it said that if the insurance companies want to participate, they had to choose. If they wanted to participate for last year, they can continue for this year, but no new people can come in this year. If they wanted to participate last year, the government said, if you do certain things, number one being that you don't raise your plan year over year more than $35. If you do that, we will subsidize you heavily per month per member, heavily, so that they can afford to keep that rate. So they got like over $100, $150 per member per month to keep that Part D rate down. So I said, hey, if you're a prudent insurance agent, when you're selling last season, you're telling them this rate is artificially low. This demonstration project is set to last 3 years. It automatically expires after 3 years. It could expire after 1 year. It's at the whim of the government. So they might extend it another year, or they might not. Well, the new administration said, yes, we don't like that look either. So they are extending it another year, but they changed it. They said that you can't raise your rates more than $50 for 2026 over 2025 prices. And they gave them a less subsidy, a lot less subsidy. So some of the insurance companies are going to raise their rates the maximum, which is $50. Now, other ones said, yeah, we're fine. It's a whole voodoo shell game. When they give a bid and what they actually charge, they get rebates, and there's risk corridors, all this stuff going on behind the scenes that insurance agents really aren't privy to. And we don't really care how the sausage gets made. We want to know how this is going to impact our clients, how we position our clients for next year. If you are heavy in the Medicare supplement market, that means all your clients have a Part D plan. And if they get, worst case scenario, a $50 per month rate increase, many of them are just going to throw up their hands and they're going to say, I'm out. I've weathered the double-digit rate increases, but I don't take very many drugs anyway. So I'm either going to be out of Medicare supplement and I'll just go to Medicare Advantage, or they're going to be out of Part D and they're going to say, I don't need it. I don't use it. If I do need a drug, I get it cheap with a discount card, or I go to Mexico once. They have other options for their cheap drugs. And that's when you're going to need to come in and really explain about the Part D late penalty, how that's calculated, what the risk is. So they could always get back into Part D. The penalty is really not that big of a deal. It's not that expensive, but it is every month for the rest of your life. So it's cumulative. So you're going to have people that are saying, whoa, 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 whoa. What do you mean a $50 rate increase? My plan last year was really cheap. That's a double or triple increase for me. And I don't take drugs. Now, a lot of people last year never read their annual notice of change. Not just last year, but every year. They don't read that. I'm guilty. I have mail on my counter at home right now. And it's about, I don't know. Does that make me look bad? It's at least 7-8 letters thick. I don't like to open mail. So it's going to sit there a while. I hate the mail. And what we found, the older we get, the more we all feel like my bills are on automatic pay. Like, I don't know what's in there, but I don't want to. They don't read their annual notice of change letter. If you haven't done a good job preparing them in your own social media posts, in your own client newsletters, in your own client meetings, training your clients to look for that letter. By law, they have to get it the month of September. Some of them just don't get it. Their address is not up to date, but they need to get it and read it every year. You have to train your clients for the system. If they have a standalone Part D drug plan, if they have a Medicare Advantage plan, that letter is very important. Since most people don't read it, they've never read it, they're like, I'm happy with my plan. I don't want to move. The majority of people don't move. The industry is priced based on people not moving, on that inertia in the retiree population that they're like, no, it's going to change a little bit, but I'm okay. If they read it last year, millions of people would have found out that their plan was going to double or triple in monthly premium over the prior year, but they didn't read it. So what happens? They went to the pharmacy in January and they found out, and they were really mad. And they called you and said, what happened? And you're like, I couldn't possibly call every client during AEP. I figured if you had a question or you wanted to change, you would have called me. Now, I know a lot of you younger agents, newer agents with the smaller client base, you're like, oh no, I call my well, that's possible until you get to a certain book of business size. Then you have to rely on them calling you. And if they don't read the letter and they don't call you, when they call you in January, you have to give them the bad news, which is it is too late to change that drug plan. So a lot of those people that were bitten in January of 2025 are going to be smarter. They will be looking for that change. Now, that's when they're going to be flooding your inbox, your phone, and you have to be prepared and train your staff to say, just because your plan went way up, doesn't mean that there's a cheaper alternative, because chances are many of them, I can't say most, again, they haven't released it yet. We won't know definitively until October 1st, which happens to coincide with the day that it's open to the public. So agents used to have a month or two advance notice to be able to figure out what's going on with our book of business. And it's looking like we're not going to have that again this year, maybe never again. So we're finding out at the same times our clients are finding out, and they're calling us and we're going, oh, dang. And it's a lot to digest. So you just want to be prepared. You can prepare them that it's likely to go up a lot this year. And they're going to say, why? Is it because of Trump? And they want to pound the table. And this actually is not really because of President Trump. And I'm not trying to defend President Trump. This is all an impact or ramification of the Inflation Reduction Act from the last administration. So the Biden administration passed the Inflation Reduction Act ostensibly to lower the price of drugs. But when they gave us that $2,000 max on Medicare Part D, which helped 8% of people, which helped about 3 million people, which is good. But the rest of us, the 57 million, the rest of the people, they weren't helped by that $2,000 cap. And the insurance companies had to make up the money that they were losing on those 3 million people by raising the rates. So this ugliness that we're seeing, you can blame Trump for a lot of things, but this wasn't this administration's baby. This was the past administration's baby. The demonstration project is making it not as bad as it would be. If you let the market speak as it should, then people would be paying $150 a month for their Part D. And that might be the market speaking next year. So if you're talking to somebody that's really mad this year and they're complaining, you might say, hey, it's going to be worse next year. It's not going to be better next year unless major changes. And we know that President Trump has talked about a most favored nations change of drug pricing, so that the United States pays this much for our drugs and all of Western Europe pays this low, that they have to, most favored nation, everybody's got to pay about the same, which means they'll pay way more so we can pay less. That's still in its first 60 days. They have a time period to get that going. Maybe that works. Maybe that drives down the drugs, and maybe we're not talking about basically an Armageddon for Part D for next year. But I like to prepare my clients to say, look, this is kind of bad, and it's going to be kind of bad again next year. So we want to look at options. Talk to them about their options. You know, we don't have a crystal ball, but we do kind of know what's going on behind the scenes. And this demonstration project can last one more year, and it will probably look similar to the changes we saw this year, that they'll limit how much they can raise the plan for 2027, and they will get less subsidy, and everybody will do that. But again, that's still speculation. So I hope you learned something in this video, and I hope it didn't frustrate you too much. I know it is going to be extremely frustrating for our standalone Part D clients, not as much for our Medicare Advantage clients, but everybody on Medicare is hurting when it comes to drug prices. If you learned something, please give me a follow, subscribe to our channel. See you next week.